Hi, this is Jurgen Rasmussen speaking. Welcome to the Provocative Hypnosis vlog. This one's going to be relatively short and sweet. It's about my favorite hypnotic induction. And I'll put hypnotic induction in quotation marks because there really is no such thing as an induction. And hypnosis isn't really something that you induce, it's more something that you evoke. You're evoking the other person's capacity for focused attention, absorption, dissociation, and suggestibility in a context defined as hypnotic or not. So John Grinder once made a very good point. He said in a seminar, "What's the difference between a professional athlete and an amateur athlete?" Of course, outside of being paid. And his answer was that the professional athlete does less. He only moves when he has to. So, in the same way with hypnosis and psychotherapy and neurolinguistic programming, change work in general, my orientation throughout time has been one of simplifying. Meaning, what can I subtract? What really doesn't have to be there? What else can we take away so that we're really doing the bare minimum that we need to do to get a particular outcome or to evoke a particular response from a client? So in actuality, my process as an agent of change working with clients has been one of unlearning, of taking most of the stuff that I've learned in NLP courses and hypnosis courses and psychotherapy trainings, and really, instead of adding a lot of complexity, it's been more a case of trimming down and shedding away the fat, taking away all the pieces that don't really have to be there. Now, once again, I'll use a definition of hypnosis here, which is a state of very focused attention characterized by absorption, dissociation, and suggestibility. So essentially, there's this ritual where one person guides the other person's imagination and emotions, um, and where the person gets absorbed into suggested realities and experiences them as real, and where the experience is one of non-volition, meaning that the responses feel like they're just happening as a result of suggestion or as a result of a particular context. Um, my orientation these days when seeing clients is that what's called mental illness or psychological disorders is really just people falling for some very simple psychological illusions and misunderstandings, and that these illusions and misunderstandings all pretty much revolve around thinking without knowing that we're thinking, not being able to quite see thoughts as they arise. That seems to be the biggie. That seems the biggie. So my work, whether it's defined as hypnotic or non-hypnotic with clients, and I explicitly frame this, is that I'm going to guide you through various thought experiments, stories, paradoxes, assignments, and they're all designed to help you see through some very basic psychological illusions. So, in a sense, you could say that my job or our job, if you work in a similar way, is to help the client dehypnotize themselves. Their symptom state can be viewed as a kind of symptomatic trance in a sense, meaning that if every time you're about to board a plane, you get a high pulse and sweaty palms and a dry mouth and shaky legs, that's like a negative form of self-hypnosis. You're suggesting to yourself through your imagination some danger, and then you forget that you're thinking, and you get so absorbed into it that it's experienced as real as real. And since you don't see that it's thought generated, it seems as if it has something to do with the content of your thinking, the plane and the turbulence and the seats and the lengths of the flights and so on and so forth. This is all illusory. So my job is to help the person see through that. So my favorite hypnotic induction, and this is not going to sound much like an induction at all, has a few very simple steps. The first step is when I've asked my questions of the clients, and these questions are usually designed to evoke their symptomatic states. I will usually ask the client, so is there anything that you wish I would have asked you? Or is there anything that you want to tell me that you really want me to know? And I just stay silent for a while. Now, the reason I ask this question is because if you start doing work with the client and the client has a busy mind and they feel like they want to tell you something or they have some sort of either objection or idea that they want to present, that can very often get in the way. So just by asking that question and giving them the opportunity to unload whatever they want to unload before you do the work has a tendency to really quiet their mind. And then I say to them, I say, look, I have 3 invitations for you for the next hour and a half or however long we're going to work. I would like you to keep your body completely still, meaning that you don't do any unnecessary movements. So any fidgeting, any grabbing for water bottles, just stay completely silent with your body for a while. My other invitation is that I'm going to be telling you some stories, guiding you through some thought experiments. I would like you to set everything you think you know, everything you've read, everything your psychologist might have told you or whatever, and just put it completely aside for a while. Because that's the easiest way that you'll be able to have insights, to see something new, to really hear something new, and have a felt experience of it. And when I tell you stories and guide you, I'd like you to listen the same way that you would listen if you just listened to very soft, pleasant music. So if you just listen to very soft, pleasant music, you're just kind of listening to have a felt sense, to have an experience. And then I move into my stories and my metaphors and my thought experiments. In my experience, setting things up in this way really helps people engage hypnotically. Why? Well, one of my observations over time is that when people respond well hypnotically, they really listen. Like it's a process of really listening with not much on your mind. So if you can get someone to listen as if they're listening to music, that has pleasant associations. It presupposes that you're not going to intellectually try to engage or object or try to analyze. It's a mode of listening that they have reference for. And there's no performance anxiety. Because here's the thing with the whole, I often don't even use the word hypnosis. And the responses I get from clients are very, very hypnotic. So here's the thing about the whole hypnosis frame, and that is as soon as you use the word hypnosis and you talk about what you're doing as a hypnotic process, People will very, very often be inside their heads and kind of wondering, am I hypnotized? Am I in trance? Is this really happening? Am I supposed to be, even if you do convincers, even if you do hypnotic phenomena and you do various convincers, that often still doesn't quite take this away. People will often still be in there wondering whether they're hypnotized or not. Now, that takes away from the work. And there's often a sort of performance anxiety that can get in the way because they think that hypnosis is some sort of activity or special state to do. On the other hand, if it's just an invitation to listen in the same way that you would listen if you listened to pleasant, soft music, there's no performance anxiety around that. You know, it's very doubtful whether a client will, be in their head going, am I really listening the way I'm listening to music? Am I really doing that right? I mean, someone could, of course, but the chances of that is really slim. What are the likely consequences of that? Well, the likely consequences is that you have a client who's really listening. They no longer have anything on their mind because they have had the chance to tell you whatever they want to tell you. They're keeping their body still. That helps for listening. They're no longer attempting to fit what you're saying into their current existing framework. That's your first invitation. And they're just listening as if they're listening to music. So all their attention is receptive to feeling and experiencing and automatically responding based upon the suggestions and the stories and the various thought experiments that you're giving them. So instead of a client being in their head wondering whether they're hypnotized, they're just listening, and they're listening in a very, very focused way. Um, and this is very often what happens when people are, good hypnotic subjects. They're really focused, they're really present, they're really listening, and they're really having an experience of what's being suggested. Now remember this, hearing is a process. The person who's hypnosis is not something that you project onto someone. It's not a reaction in the other person. It's not suggestions going in, as old-time hypnotists used to think about it. Hearing is the process of hearing. It's a very active process. The person who's listening or hearing is as active as the person talking. The person who's hearing is making meaning, interpreting, forming associations, but they're doing it automatically and unconsciously due to being in this very, very receptive state. So check it out. Play with this. It's my level of hypnotic responses with clients went way up when I started doing this particular framing. Now, when I say favorite induction, it's a favorite induction for the context of helping people see through psychological illusions and having spontaneous insights. If I were to do hypnotic regression work, I do an instant or rapid hand drop induction, for example. If I were to do let's say I were to do some work with pain, in surgery, or it's something I haven't done, but if I were to do it, I'd probably do more of an Elman or Esdale type induction. So it really does depend upon the context. Anyways, I'm sure that this will be useful for you if you play with it. Till next time, have fun, play.